I'm Trek with 2Ks.
All right. Hola, buenos dias, buenos noches, buenos tardes, GnGs. My name is Trekker 2Ks, and yeah, it is a Monday night. Apologies on last Monday. So before I get into, the things that catch my mind or scratch my brain on Twitter. So last Monday, what did I do? I decided to work on my car, and I did that not knowing I get the short of not knowing what I was doing. I was changing out my audio system, the entertainment system, not like the speakers and stuff, but nonetheless, was doing that, and hell of a learning curve. So and I swear I started it off early enough in the day, and trying to find X number of the YouTube videos that explain excuse me, or at least give you X amount of the relevant information. Here's a note for if you use YouTube as your way of like DIYing stuff. The stuff that was put out 5 years back, 3 years back, 8 years back, especially on this techie side stuff, it don't apply the same. Because I went through a whole thing of like, oh, I need to get these butt connectors, and I need what was the other thing? It was the butt connectors, and it was some other stuff that I cannot remember right now that I had like ordered and stuff. And then lo and behold, I go through the whole thing, and if anybody knows about like actually stripping wires and then like connect them with the butt connectors and the whole thing of how that worked, especially when it's like low gauge wires and they kind of get frayed and you got to kind of twist it. It's a process. And if you ever seen how like the wire harnesses are for the convergence stuff, yeah. So lo and behold, to realize I didn't even need the stuff because of the way the new wiring harness goes. But at that point, it was already like after 9:30. It was damn near like after 10. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm the show's not happening today. And I had a thing or two that I definitely had wanted to cover. I'm gonna get into at least one of those things, and then I'm gonna run through the other stuff for what scratched my brain on Twitter last week, right? But nonetheless, if you don't know, I am Shrek with 2Ks. This is the Gentleman of Crypto's YouTube channel. I do a segment on here. I also simultaneously stream on my own channel, which is called Shrek with 2Ks. And if anybody's interested, please go over, give a like, give a share. I'm I'm actually going through the process of adding in the other videos stuff that I've done over the years on that side. And literally the Gentleman of Crypto is the more current stuff, but the actual Trek with 2Ks channel will have like the other stuff that I did with 3D and like my early solo stuff. And yeah, just trying to like get it all there. And I'm really trying to play with the algos and the AI for getting my stuff cached and indexed. But that's a whole nother thing, animal. Nonetheless, what I basically do now is I go through Twitter every here and there, and then I just bookmark things that like catch my attention and scratch my brain, right? and I share it with you guys, and I throw out, my thought process on some of these things. X amount of time I am way off, and I'm just the one, thinking of that thing myself. While at other times, I could be calling it right. And it's a matter of like, the proof is in the pudding, or like time will tell. And yeah, that's kind of how it's been going so far. We gotta wait till we get down the road a little bit to see, is it gonna be what I said, or is it gonna be totally the opposite? And I honestly am not keeping track on what is what. And I'm gonna say it's largely in part just because, like, for how I'm looking at the space now, I'm what's the word? I'm not gonna say disillusioned, but that might be the word. That was actually I stole that wording from something that Jameson Lopp had posted a week or two ago. Also, if you are seeing this or hearing the voice, can you give me something in the chat, like a thumbs up or a 1, to let me know how this audio is working out? Because yeah, my system is still acting wonky, even though I got to figure out. I'm probably just going to end up buying a whole new laptop. That is probably what's going to end up happening, right? But nonetheless, let us jump into these Twitter posts, aka X, and expound, or what is it? Pontificate, a word that Reggie likes. Pontificate. If that isn't an SAT word. All right, let's do this. So, and I might have a little bit of audio to share. Also, yep. Boom. Here we go. All right, technology, do your thing. All right, so the first one I wanted to get into was this one down here. This was Woo Blockchain. Again, I've been telling y'all, I've been following them for a minute. I do like how they, kind of pay attention to things within the space. Granted, they also do shill the shenanigans, like the whole Trump coin thing. But here and there, or more here than there, they do have some things that's like, oh, that's interesting to pay attention to. Granted, they took it from another source. If you're not one for tracking down all of the different crypto news quote platforms, then Woo Blockchain is a good option if you're a Twitter person. So according to Bitcoin News, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said the U.S. will accelerate Bitcoin mining, support the construction of its own power infrastructure, and reduce reliance on the public power grid. The U.S. will allow miners to build power plants and data centers near natural gas fields and consider incorporating Bitcoin into the national economic account. Personally, I think that's a very, very big deal. I do, however, wonder, what does this mean for the mom and pop folks? I have an idea of how this would look over here on the East Coast, as far as the areas or the states that would definitely look to encourage the migration or the establishment of crypto businesses within their state lines, right? Because this is all about helping getting the taxes to pay to the coffers, right? So in particular, 2 states off break that I think would see this is Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Those 2 states have the cheapest as far as the East Coast goes. I don't know who's cheaper than them, and I haven't actually did any digging and googling to figure out. But I know off head, because of some folks that I know and what they do and what we've talked about, West Virginia and PA, I could see this being a thing in those 2 states. Now, how would it work out for North Carolina, who actually wants to go down as far as Florida? I don't know because of hurricane season and all of that. Granted, North Carolina and like Georgia has the tornadoes, and I think Kentucky also has cheap energy, but they also have flooding, which is a whole nother type of natural disaster, let alone what the insurance would be. And like flooding insurance is crazy. I don't know how it works for businesses. I know it's a whole hoopla if you're doing residential though. But the point being is that if this actually does make it through, how my question is, I can see how it works on the commercial side. I can see what it will do for states and counties, especially within the Midwest and in the South, as far as them being able to have some growth within the tech industry, the tech stack vertical. Granted, it would be at the data center side of it, which then would also mean like additional jobs that are more tech related get developed within that area or within that region. So like it sounds like it could have multiple what's the word I'm looking for? It's not X folds, but it could have knock-ons, or not knock-ons isn't really the appropriate phrasing either, but other benefits from this could happen. But then you got to ask yourself the question of, well, what are the negatives of this? Now we're going to talk about, well, what type of power plants are you building? How big are these facilities, right? Granted, it will make jobs in order for you to build the facility. But what do you do if you're out in the countryside and then you have your people who are like, oh, well, we don't want that here. And those folks fight it down to the point where you don't get that facility built. So then you don't get the mining warehouses and the developments, right? Here's the other part of this where it makes me wonder, how many people understand that we're in a transition of where you have cities and counties and towns that have to figure out, well, how do we make it into the rest of this 21st century? Because we've been struggling so far on the end of agriculture isn't what it used to be, and an industrial peak ain't working anymore, especially for how, you know, some town or city or county in Kentucky or West Virginia that like they lost their industry because of outsourcing overseas, right? And X amount of that was due to the people that got voted into office, because as far as I understand it, the outsourcing and overseas stuff started in like the latter 70s, and X number of people who were in the Congress and the Senate from the 70s are still here now, right? So, the everyday average person, how are they understanding this? Like, how are they seeing this and what this means as an opportunity for them? Or is it too much of a change or too fast of a change of them moving from analog tech into this more digital space tech, or like agriculture and now crossing over into this tech side? I don't know, but this is definitely something I will look to keep on my radar. And, you know, we'll see how this plays out down the road. Considering this whole argument or talk or conversation that we have now around AI, and it's the whole thing of like AI is going to be the way that you have the upper hand if you're a business or if you're a government, and AI, artificial intelligence, everything. And it's just like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, you still need people to purchase stuff. You still need people to like eat stuff. You still need people to consume. You still need people to build. You still need people to have people. And if anybody has been paying attention, apparently our numbers are going down in regards to like childbirth. But that's a whole nother topic, not necessarily crypto related right now, right? This will definitely pan into the crypto space, or at least data centers, or for how they're relabeling them, whatever. Next joint that caught my attention, and I'm gonna throw this into the crypto space, even though it does not say anything crypto, right? So shout outs to Caroline, or Charlene, I always mess up how to say her name. Federipo. She also has a book, by the way. If anybody's interested, you can definitely find a link to it in her profile, I believe. But she makes a point about who everyone knows at this point. If you've been in the financial space for any amount of time as a newbie, if you've been in the crypto space for any amount of time, at some point you've heard the name Jim Cramer. And this guy has been, I want to say he's been on TV at least a decade or more now. And so, yes, the post is, one thing is certain: the new pope will not be an American. And lo and behold, everyone was talking about the African dude, and there was all hoopla about that. And it turns out here it is; it's an American dude, I believe, right? But she makes the point about how can someone build an entire career in finance by being consistently wrong. And the thread, not the threads, but the comments in this joint definitely go in on him. But the other part that catches me with this is like, it makes me wonder what his actual viewership numbers are. Not enough to actually go and look, but like, think about this. If this guy has been on air for at least 10 years, I want to say it's more than 10 years at this point, and his callings have been so off consistently, how does he still get to stay on air? Logically thinking, it's like, well, if the guy's always calling it wrong and he still gets to have a TV show, he still gets to broadcast and, like, spill out these takes to hundreds of thousands of people month for month, week for week, whatever. Like, what is the viewership number like? Or if the viewership number has been decreasing over the X amount of years, how does he still get to have the show? So it's either whoever is keeping him on the network is either really incompetent, being like, hey, this guy's numbers is trash, but we're going to still keep him on, or you're in on a bullshit. And the whole point of him is to gaslight / bullshit the retail market level folks. Because at the end of the day, like, who's really watching him who works at JP Morgan? Who's watching him who works at Bloomberg? Like, really? No, I can't see how that works. But nonetheless, this man has been on air for damn near a decade or more and gets to say the stuff he says, which arguably is a level of market manipulation. And if you haven't been paying attention, we literally just had it where the commander-in-chief did it like twice. Twice. There was market manipulation in your face, and no one's batting an eye at it. No one is batting an eye. Folks are just going about their day like, hey, he said what he said. It is what it is. And that's it. There's no, we should call, the SEC on him or FinCEN or whoever. Like, there's literally folks who are doing enough of the data digging, going like, hey, when you did that first thing about like how stocks were going to do, what was that? That was after the initial tariff thing. Like, there's folks who are literally digging into the accounts and following the traffic and being like, yo, the timing makes no sense. There is no way that this account was able to make the move it made without having some kind of heads up. But yet, nobody's held accountable. Nobody's going to jail. Other thing to note, the platforms that had the first mover advantage people or accounts, we don't know who's who. We just know that certain accounts were able to take positions that allowed them to get a windfall of profit. Notice those platforms did not do an automatic freeze, or they did not do what's the thing called, I cannot remember the name of it right now, but basically what Robinhood did X number of years back when it was the regular average Joe, the regular average retail person who started beating the house. Automatically, they had to stop the system. They had to cut off one side of the trade. They had to say, hey, we can't allow this to happen. And then there was a whole like apology PR public circuit thing that was going on. And it was like, yo, like that's wild. Like the dude is literally telling you we have these safeties in place because like we just can't let the public, the regular Joe person, get over on the house. But yet when this situation plays out, excuse me, where you have certain accounts, high value, high stake accounts do it, all of a sudden the automatic blocks don't work anymore. The automatic blocks don't matter. There's no head of the company having to go out and make any apologies on the circuit or anything. Again, like it's just wild to me. Like we're seeing this right in front of our face and nobody's batting an eye, you know? John E. Deaton is another one that I follow. Lawyer guy. He's been in the fight with is that XRP? Not with XRP. It's like he's fighting against him or whatever. But nonetheless, this post caught my attention, and apparently it's been making its rounds and variations of for Coinbase, making it onto the S&P 500. And my response, hey, what's going on, Jump Out Girls? My response on this was like, so basically, you just had to ride out the transition of governments and the bureaucracy until you made it into the Gate Guard Club. Because make no mistake, like they're going to be a part of the new Gate Guard Club. They'll be in the transition. And yeah, it is sad to say, ironic to say, it is what it is, but like this is where we are. And so pardon me. So John was saying a point about how there's that old saying of first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you. And there's the Coinbase official account, and then Brian Armstrong did something similar on his account, and John is just like, yeah, but you forgot then they sue you, then you kick their ass and they drop the suit, which he's targeting at the SEC and like how things are going within the last two administrations. Well, actually, funny enough, that would still bring it back to Trump. But nonetheless, as I've mentioned before, this administration, this second goal in administration is taking a very different approach to this crypto space. Not saying I'm the biggest fan of it, but it is kind of at times interesting to watch, and then sometimes it is very annoying to watch. And some of y'all could be on whichever side of it y'all are. You can see this as the growth and maturity of the space, and I would argue different in certain regards, especially for this next post that I'm gonna get into, which was for the SEC. But nonetheless, with this, like, this is mass adoption. This is an example of mass adoption. And so with that mass adoption, we see the companies or the personalities or the acceptance of that thing that used to be like the over there. Well, now you've stepped into an echelon where like, well, they're in this level of it now. So like, of course they're a part of it, or like, of course this is good, or of course this means that they've made it, or like that it's accepted, right? And I mean, S&P isn't really anything to sneeze at, but is this an acceptance that we want in the crypto space? Because I remember when it wasn't. Like I remember when it wasn't. But hey, here we are. You might differ. You might take a different standpoint on it. If you do, say something. Comments are open, you know? Oh, that's another thing to note. The comments that will be on this video afterwards, do remember, I didn't come up with it, but anything that says anything about crypto, not a me thing. Not a me thing at all. So don't buy into any of that stuff. If I've never actually directly talked to you about anything crypto, do not think I'm gonna do it in a YouTube comment section. Okay. All I can tell you about like crypto as in regular market stuff is prices go up and prices go down. That's all I can tell you when it comes to how they get valued. Because remember, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm just some guy on the internet. Well, actually, not in shades now because you don't even see my face now. But nonetheless, like that's what's going on. This other one that caught my attention and scratched my brain a little bit is New York Mayor Eric Adams has, damn, pardon me, urged crypto companies to set up operation in the city to position it as a global cryptocurrency hub, and announced the city's first crypto summit next week. He emphasized the need to balance regulation and industry growth, warning against overregulation that could stifle the crypto sector. If that ain't the fucking biggest irony, like I need y'all to understand this. If this is your first time hearing me or whatever, like I need y'all to understand the context of New York City is one of the most heaviest regulated cities in a state. East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, whatever. Okay. Like case in point, New York City has its own gun laws in comparison to the whole state of New York. New York City has a whole separate DMV than the state of New York. Okay. So you're trying to tell people to come and bring their business that is heavily to bring their business into New York that is already led foot on the back of the crypto industry neck at the state level to then go into New York and then potentially have, and when I say potentially, I mean damn near 100% more than likely have additional regulatory issues to deal with because you're in the city. You wildin'. Like, and I feel sorry for whoever actually does this. Like, if you're already in New York and you're already doing things for a little bit, like God, what is his name? I cannot remember my boy's name right now. I'm gonna remember it, but it's gonna come to me real late. His exchange is called Quake something or something Quake Block Quake or Quake Block Quake, I think. They already been in New York for a bit. They was there before COVID. Okay, like, and he has a finance tech background. He's already used to that environment. But you trying to get other folks to come in now? That's wild. That's wild. That's just wild. Like, and you didn't even say anything. Nonetheless, I'm not gonna beat up on the mayor, even though I have a whole bunch of questions around some of the things going on with him. I just can't see folks thinking New York is going to be the next new hot space to be as a crypto hub business wise. If they're already there, that's one thing, but you're not about to drag in the new folks. And not to mention, like, X amount of what's going on, even with Wall Street, isn't even taking place in New York like that now. So, like, how does that even make sense? Anywho, moving on to the next joint. Shout outs to the man Tej. I wanted to write this in the subtitle for this episode of like, do you read or something along that line? And I think that's a big part. Right, definitely jump out. So yeah, there you go. Teach. So the whole thing about reading, like reading, even if you're doing audiobooks, like trust me, I am a big fan of audiobooks. Why? Because audiobooks work as a very good um 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 time management tool, especially if you have long drives, if you're on the subway, if like you taking public transportation, if you're in the middle, or like you're doing like a DIY project and you want to have that audio book in the background and you listen to it that way. Now granted, depending on the subject, it might be a little bit more um of a repeat play thing to fully grasp what is being said, for like how dense a topic might be. But nonetheless, like you can still find ways to consume information outside of actually having to have the physical book or the newspaper, or staring at the screen, quote, if you're not a physical book kind of person. And then the other part of the idea with the podcast, yeah, Bitcoin did. That's Peter's been at this game a pretty long time right now, not even gonna lie. I never heard of the Kevin Rook show. I will have to look into that. And Swan, I'll definitely check that out if that's who I think it is. Is this gonna open up? No, it's not doing what I want it to do. But yeah, um the information be out there, y'all. And like as I be telling my kids, like you gotta cross-reference the stuff. So like this book, you might read it, like Bitcoin Standard, right? You read it and you be like, I don't really care what he said. I don't like it. It doesn't really mean nothing. But then you go and you read Layered Money, and then you compare and contrast Layered Money to something that like Ray Dalio, I'm saying his name wrong. I know I am somehow. Wrote, and be like, okay, where are the touch points? Where does it connect? Where does it cross? Right? And you do that, and that's when like you build your own understanding of whatever the industry or the space or the topic is that you're trying to understand. You got to have multiple touch points, or not touch points, but cross-referencing points, and then see where they connect at or where they butt heads at. And it's like, well, is that really a good argument that's like the con of whatever the topic is? Or is it a weak one because there's a pro side to it that's like that totally just dissembles, that other opposing side? I'm just throwing that out there as far as this thing of like doing your own due diligence. It matters for a reason. In that, you know, you need to be able to, I can't even say it that way, because we are in a day and age where it's all about delegated responsibility and accountability of stuff. Like we're more so in it now than I would say we were like 10, 20 plus years ago, right? As everyone wants to find a way to be like, oh no, that's not my fault. Well, this person did that and that person did this, and it's like, yeah, but what did you do? It's like, me, I didn't do anything. So yeah, delegated accountability / responsibility is a major thing in today's modern world. But if you're interested in any of these books, the Bitcoin Standard, Layered Money, the Layered Money one, I gotta find that one. And I didn't know about Bitcoin is Venice. I gotta look into that too. Other joint that caught my attention to scratch my brain was Dubai Finance has signed a MOU with Crypto.com to allow users to pay Dubai government service fees using cryptocurrency, aiming to promote the cashless strategy and advanced digital payment development. Crypto.com will provide payment processing support, converting funds into AED and transferring them to Dubai finance accounts. All right, so one, it doesn't tell you what cryptocurrencies it is, and I'm kind of like, and I'm not even gonna look into the actual article they took it from, but off break is just one of those like, wait, so it's one cryptocurrency? Well, what is the cryptocurrency, and how is that going to work for the service fees? I know there's a whole different thing going on. I mean, yes and no. Okay, no, let me not yes and no. More so like Dubai is just trying to get its market share, if that makes sense. Just as how Hong Kong is getting its market share of the financial sector. Dubai has a different level of accessibility to it in comparison to other Middle Eastern marketplaces, as Hong Kong in comparison to other Asian marketplaces has a different level of access. And when I say that, I mean that in terms of like, with both of these places, you have what is their traditional banking setup. Then you get into, they have a interesting development as far as their tech hub goes. Shalom. Then you have what is going on within their financial sectors, as far as like, well, we're not just doing traditional financial instruments, right? We're also doing ETFs. We're also working on other types of derivatives. We're also looking at things as far as precious metals. Like, those are all within the same sandbox, but in different, quote, geographical regions of the world. So like, for as much as they will talk of the, we want to be like, or how do I say this? Any region can project or call out or say we want to be the financial hub, or we want to be the future space of blah blah blah, but it doesn't mean that they will actually be that. And part of that plays into, one, what is the regulatory space that you are developing to foster and develop this kind of ecosystem, and then how does it actually look and operate to the people who are in your local market, but also the people who are outside of your local market, and them actually looking to go and set up shop in your region, right? If your regulatory space isn't friendly to what they're trying to do, guess what? You could make all the proclamations you want to. It doesn't mean the money's going to flow there. You'll get some for sure, but it doesn't guarantee, and it doesn't hold anybody else to have to be there. One of my takes, and I've been saying this for a while now, as far as what's going on with Hong Kong, they got a whole bunch of stuff happening, and it's the sandbox. And granted, it falls under the CCP, but they're intentionally pushing it over there on the little island, a couple 1,000 feet away from the mainland. And this is like, all right, let's see how this goes. And if you're paying attention to any of the stuff that came out in this recent tariff talk, as far as I understand it, the money's slowing up over here in the stateside, and the money's about to take a change. Some people are jumping, some entities, I don't know the people, I'm just saying entities, are jumping and making the move, while other folks are still trying to figure out. And what I'm talking about is basically, we lowered the tariff on China, but the way that China has set their tariff thing up, even though it's lowered, on the back end side of it, they are telling their companies, the government is telling their companies or their industry sectors that would heavily invest in American industry and tech sector. I don't know what that is. And so basically the investment money that will go towards our tech sector and other industries isn't flowing there anymore. And so where the how do I say this? It isn't a tariff thing anymore. Well, it wasn't a tariff thing to begin with, but excuse me. Nonetheless, like excuse me. The point of what I'm trying to make is that the landscape is changing outside of the US, and we're so busy gaslighting our home folks, our I can't even say American public, because it's not only American citizens who are in the country who are just looking at this thing going like, well, yeah, of course America's doing great. Or, the president said blah, blah, blah. Or like, well, why is this going on? And it contradicts what the president said 2 days ago. The landscape shifting, y'all. And the money isn't moving how they trying to tell us it's moving. And what's his name? Bassett, the Treasury Secretary dude. I don't know what it is about that. I kind of do know. But you know what? I'm not gonna get into smudging him. Not even. I'm gonna cut myself right there. Point being is crypto.com ended up doing this MOU. We'll see how it plays out after the summertime. I'm really curious to see like how much of the population is arguing about using crypto to pay for government services. Like their taxing and fee thing over there is way different than how we do it over here. Like the taxes stuff isn't like how we do it over here. I got a homeboy who just bought a space out there, so he even put me on to some of the game with it, and it's a different setup, But here we are over here. Like we're gonna see how this play out. I'm gonna definitely, like I said, I think at the end of the year, I'm gonna try to go through and find like all of the tabs and be like, okay, how many things that I bookmarked, for 2025, and like what made sense, what didn't, what makes the list of like this worked out, but this didn't. All right, so this one right here caught me. I guess big ups to Molly White. So I'm not certain if I didn't read through all of this, but the short of it is that she did I need this to stop. She either is writing on a crypto news platform, or this is like her blog thing. Not certain which it is. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Molly. But the point being is this particular thing caught me because she had a whole thread of a bunch of different things that happened. Like, I don't know if it was all within this week or this month, but if you go through and look, she covers a number of things that happened. And this one in particular caught my attention. I'm going to read it to y'all. So here's what she says. In the courts, Celsius founder Alex Mashinsky, has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for the Celsius fraud. Customers lost over $500 million in the collapse. Now, let me read into what the post is and with the picture. Alex Mashinsky has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for the Celsius fraud, which accumulated in the mid-2022 collapse of the US-based cryptocurrency lending firm, causing over $500 million in cryptocurrency losses. The government has requested a 20-year sentence. Mashinsky asked for a single year of imprisonment. Mashinsky pled guilty to fraud in December, just before his case was set to go to trial, and that plea was a major factor in his receiving a substantially shortened, shorter sentence than Sam Bankman-Fried's 25 years. So, one, like it's definitely a eye opener, or like a shock and awe of like, yo, like, wait, what? Folks are catching like skid numbers, like bids, like whole, like double digits. What? And arguably, you took somebody's money that you wasn't well. You took somebody's money and you didn't give it back to who you're supposed to. The other part to note in this, when I read this, I was like, wait, how did it was a bill? It was over half a billion. So really, 500 million. 500 million is what got lost to customers. Customers. That was the people. Now, here's the question. What are we defining customers as in this situation? Are we talking about the people who were putting up the collateral of the crypto, or are we talking about the people who took out loans that were being funded by the random whatever person, backer who was putting up their crypto? Because I'm wondering if this amount of customer loss, did that not really start happening when the government started coming in and saying, hey, we got to freeze everybody's shit? I don't know. I'm asking the question. I'm wondering. And in full disclosure, I was messing with the platform. I was putting the Bitcoin up, and literally when we were at the at the Bitcoin conference in Florida, and they were still talking like everything was cool, and I forgot what it was that I seen that just had me like, wait, what? I got back home, took everything that I could off, took everything that I could take off, and was like, all right, I'm done. This was like another example of the, all right, man, like the space is definitely disappointing me, because I feel like, okay, here's what's going on in my brain right now. For the way, and I'm going back to Reggie Middleton for how he had described his process of being able to use blockchain to do the lending and the controlling of like the both party side, right? In the balancing and the counterbalance stuff. But that's a more transparent, open, self-verify type of system, right? What you then kind of understand with how Alex's system was set up was, it wasn't transparent, it was very opaque, and it was more along the lines of Bernie Madoff, which, ironically enough, the way that Madoff was running his stuff is the same way that Robinhood runs its stuff. You only see a certain part of the front end. You don't know what's going on in the back end. You have no idea of how the dark pool part of the money works, which is a real phrase. But yet, here we are with it could have gone good, but arguably, Alex got into following what traditional finance was doing, which was mixing and mingling and managing the funds of the regular user, the super user, and you got to understand, like in traditional financing right now, this is the stuff that they do. They literally set it up where you have a lot of intermingling between the banks and an intermingling of the commercial side and the retail side. So like, he was really just doing best common practice. He was following what the industry was already saying was the standard of what to do. But yet, he gets charged with fraud. This isn't me making a case for him for anybody who like lost out on the funds or whatever. I'm not making a case of why he should be, freed or innocent or anything like that. But it's really one of those like, wow, like it's a head scratcher for how this space, not the space, but how this world works. Because I promise you, in another, 5 years, 10 years, the model, and if not damn near the same, like logics and the algorithm that he used to set up Celsius, it's gonna be a mainstream or two. It probably might be 3 or 5 different companies doing the same thing. It's just gonna be different brands of bread, different brands of banking. Is it JP Morgan? Is it Bank of America? That's literally what it's gonna be down the road. That's the scary part to me. But I, I don't even know, man. Like, best of luck. We'll see how you come out on the back end of 12 years. I don't know. Like, that's gonna be rough. That's gonna be rough right there. And that's federal. I'm just sending positive vibes, man. I'm just sending positive vibes. Positive vibes. Yeah, that's a rough one. All right, so let me get back up here. Get back up here. So come on. All right. So this is Eleanor Tourette. Don't know who she is per se, but this did come across my radar. So in SEC, Chair Atkins keynote speech at today's tokenization roundtable, he laid out 3 policy focus areas the agency is targeting. So here we go, right? To create clearer guidelines for crypto issuance and explore new registration exemptions and safe harbors. Provide consumers with expanding custody options, including self-custody and potential updates to the qualified custodian definition. Explore integration, trading platforms, and the modernization of ATS regulations to better accommodate crypto assets. So, I would argue that self-custody thing sounds kind of interesting. It sounds like a potential positive. Don't know how much actual legwork will actually come from that, because something just came out about how Europe is looking to ban self-custody. So the EU is looking to push some kind of regulatory thing that says they're going to ban self-custody as an option, right? Yet here you have over here across the pond, as they say, our person is talking about, well, we want to try to figure out how to accommodate self-custody. That would be interesting to actually see if that works out. Because again, it's a night and day thing going on between what the previous administration said and what Gary Gensler was doing and what's going on now with this administration and Mr. Atkins here, as far as what he's saying he's trying to get put out there. Why is it doing that? I would have played it, but it's been a long day, y'all. I was doing yard work and working on a truck today. So that was a whole nother learning lesson of working on my truck. I got a Yeehaw truck. I don't know if I mentioned that. But nonetheless, it will be interesting to see if this plays out. I would say my bigger grain of salt with this is usually when you have government regulatory or government intervention, they're basically talking about limiting your function, your accessibility, and or um your your proximity to said resource or I don't want to say object, but usually a thing of like limiting your access or control of that thing. Again, it's a regulatory agency. It's a bureaucratic body, like literally what their job is, literally. So it would be interesting to see how this plays out. especially for those who are looking at like, well, how do I have more self-agency, or how do I get more involved in this like economic sovereignty? It's not with these folks is the bottom line. But this is also the other part of mass adoption and maturity and the growth of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies. I feel like I don't hear nobody talk about blockchain technology anymore. Everything is just about the cryptocurrency and how we're adopting, and this technology is. But again, I'm an old head, so at this point, I just kind of accept how this is playing out. It is what it is. I'm not gonna run into this one, although it is a pretty interesting commercial. Unfortunately, I cannot play it because it is going to look very, very wonky. No, that was a whole nother thing I was reading for something else. Wow. Wow, I am really feeling this day. I have literally been outside in the sun. The tan is tanning right now. One of the things I like about the summer, by the way, get the melanin doing what it's supposed to do. So, another Wu blockchain says U.S. government has recommended a 2-year prison sentence for Eric Council Jr., who allegedly helped hack the SEC's X account to falsely announce Bitcoin spot ETF approval. The fake post published roughly 24 hours before the real approval triggers significant market volatility. Again, folks, I'm calling this out again. We have Commander-in-Chief, folks like Jamie Dimon, and King said this a number of times. These folks are out here making comments that have a impact on the public sentiment in these markets. Why is no one calling them out for market manipulation? Now, as far as the hacking part goes, all right, I get it. He got in trouble for the hacking thing. Right. Hacking bad in this case. But excuse me. I'm actually curious on the part of, did he get some kind of information? And again, I'm not going to read the article. I'm just going off of how I see this on Twitter, y'all. But did he get some kind of information that he saw something going on online that was like, yo, this is actually going to be approved? Because he put it out before the approval. So, like, was this a setup of market manipulation? I don't know. Did, like, other question, what was the motivation to make this the announcement? Why not be like, yo, it's not going to happen? Why not be like, hey, Jamie Dimon is under investigation? Why not say something that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, work towards, like, how am I saying this? What was his advantage? Was there an advantage for him? And how long was that again? 2 years. I mean, 2 years and good behavior, 18 months, 15. And I want to say because this was by the SEC, that's going to be federal time. So, like, he'll be okay, arguably. And it was a financial crime. It wasn't anything related to violence or, like, the peace stuff. Like, he should be okay. And whoever motivated him to go do that, hopefully they take care of him when he get back. That doesn't mean I'm over here promoting hacking. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, I don't understand why you would have thought to do that if there was no benefit or upside somehow. But whatever. Like I said, we out here seeing, administration, current presidential administration people straight gaslight us and make comments that are damn sure on the list for looking at like insider trading, but no one really cares. And that's where we are right now in life, right? This is America. This is where we are right now. It is what it is, as they say. So those are the things that scratch my brain on Twitter, and I'm calling it a day. Yep, for sure, because I'm making an hour right now. Folks, as I say, from one human to the next, the best thing that I can wish is for you to be in a safe place, in a safe space, in a good company. It is a Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope the Monday wasn't too crazy for you. And I hope I'm pushing out the positive vibes that as you go through this week, take time to appreciate, the family and the friends. Take self-account on what's going on with you and what's going on with your emotions. I was in a conversation this weekend that really had me thinking about the whole thing of like sitting in your emotions and understanding what is generating that emotion and not just going off the emotion and then jumping into action, but understand before you take action, does the emotion make sense? Do you know or understand why you are having that emotion, whether it be jealousy, whether it be anxiety, whether it be sadness, whether it be and we include happiness. Like, do you understand why you happy right now? Like, are you looking to be able to like repeat the sensation, and how do you generate it again, or how do you work out avoiding it or being able to better mitigate it, right? It's like just throwing that out there for a conversation that I had this weekend. Also, happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and for all the kids, hopefully if your mama's still around, you got to say, hey, hopefully she was a good one. And yeah, you at least got to acknowledge her. And yeah, that's all I got. But anywho, I'm closing it out, and I hope y'all have a good one. Until the next one, who knows what's going to be on my brain then.
I'm Trek with 2Ks.